Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Hardy. I'm a Vietnamese living in Finland, and I'm here to share with you everything I have learned during my growth journey to live a happier, fulfilled, and mindful life. I made this video especially for you if you're in your early 20s and feeling a little bit lost to figure out your life, how to build a truly happy life in your early 20s. Just so you know, I turned 25 this month. Yay, it's my birthday month, and I spent it to look at my early 20s journal, and there's one thing stand out, and it's quite interesting to me that most of the things that really transform and make my life much better now, they wasn't impressive at all at time. They are actually very simple, and it could be a little bit boring habits and decisions, and I kept doing consistently over time, and now they become really impactful in my life. Just like interest, those small little decisions, habit compounds over time. At this point of my life, I'm confident to let you know that I am truly happy with my current state. I am happy with the life I'm having, with the relationships I have. I know for sure that I am on the right track to build the real wealthy life that I want in the future. That's why in this video, I will share with you 11 simple things that I started in my early 20s that compound over time to build a wealthy life in the future. First of all, this is not a video where I will tell you how to become better or get ahead compared to others. Because for me, comparisons is such a stupid and meaningless race in our life that we would never win. So no, I'm not here to tell you how to become better than other people, but I'm here to share with you things that will help you actually to feel better about yourself and become better compared to you last week, last month, or last year. It's all about personal growth, not ego growth, okay? Before we jump to the juicy part of this video, I just want to take about 2 minutes of your life to explain to you the new concept of my series. So I call this the early 20s scrapbook. It is like a personal guidebook for me to look at back one days, or I actually want to pass this over to my sister or probably my daughter in the future, because I want to use the series, the scrapbook, to note down the story, the lessons, and the funny experience or any unforgettable conversations I have in my early 20s. So just like many people, I love hearing stories of how people navigate their life in the early 20s, how they overcome a lot of challenge, self-doubts, and I want to create something similar, but this time, instead of listening to others, I want to be the person who shares the story. Hopefully, you will learn something, you feel relatable, you have someone to go along with your journey to figure out who we are in this life. I just want to create a safe place to share story, to be vulnerable, to really inspire you. And that's why this series is born, and together with Scrapbook, in each video we're gonna tackle on different topics, and for this time it will be things that really transform and compound over time. And I will also print out the pictures and the quotes that I would love to look back one day. So I'm really glad that you will build the Scrapbook together with me in public, and can't wait to uncover with you a lot of funny story in my early 20s together. These 11 things that I would share with you range from the most easy, the smallest and concrete actions, to the most impactful decisions or habits that have transformed my life. I would say they are mostly very small actions but with big impact, and the key, as I mentioned, is to be consistent with it, to keep doing it over time, and it compounds like interest. So yeah, now we're gonna get started with the first thing. The first thing I'm glad I started in my early 20s that's really enhanced my energy level throughout the days is that I focus more on having enough sleep over waking up early in the morning. I know that it has been now a very common belief that if you wake up early in the morning, it means that you will have a productive day ahead. But I think it is a misunderstanding. In reality, energy actually comes from having enough quality sleep. It doesn't depend on the clock time. So after reading book about the importance of having enough quality sleep, I shift my focus on bedtime over the wake up time. So I care more about when I should go to sleep to have enough at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep and still wake up about 6 or 7 a.m. the next day. Because you know that about 7 to 8 hours of sleep will actually give you the stable energy. Again, it's not about wake up at 7 will make you feel energized, but it's about having enough 7 to 8 hours that give you you the real energy. Personally, I am really glad that I stopped forcing myself to wake up like at 5 a.m. to just become a morning person but neglected my bedtime. I have learned the true importance of actually good quality sleep over just the bedtime, the fancy word of the morning club people. If, for example, tomorrow you have to wake up sick and you want to always ensure about 7 to 8 hours sleep, then what time you have to wake up? Let's think that way. Let's stop focusing about like wake up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. Let's think about having enough sleep, because you should never expect yourself to wake up like at 6 a.m. if you go to sleep at 12 every single day, because you are having a lot of sleep debt and your body will never ever be healthy or energized with that lack of sleep. And also, if you feel like waking up early is so challenging for you because you just want to keep snoozing the alarm, then ask yourself, did you sleep enough? The challenge that people facing with like wake up early also because they need to have enough sleep to wake up energized and stop snoozing the alarm. So everything connects to each other. Let me tell you, focus more on your bedtime, having sleep enough over waking up early. The second thing is all about food. Like, I'm so glad in my early 20s, I decided that, girl, I need to know how to cook properly. Okay, so for me, I'm from Vietnam. I'm from an Asian family, so cooking food has been one of our love language. So for me, when I'm feeling like homesick, I try to have like good food, especially Vietnamese food, but obviously it's so expensive for me to like go out to eat. So yeah, I kind of have to learn how to cook, but I actually falls in love with cooking when it is an act of releasing stress after a long day. One of the best way to maintain the healthy lifestyle, because I know exactly what I eat every day, and then also save me a lot of money instead of just eating out, that I buy good high quality products home and cook good food for myself. There is also something that is really related to energy. I believe that at any age, energy is one of the more expensive currency that you have for yourself. So I really focus on what I should do to maintain good energy, and good food, quality food is obviously the key to maintain good energy throughout the day. You would never expect yourself to like thrive and do everything at 100% if you neglect first of all your sleep, as I mentioned, and secondly, good food. So learning how to cook basic, properly food that give you enough carbs, vitamin, protein, fibers, that is the basic to know in your early 20s. Don't feel pressures if you don't love cooking or you don't even know anything about cooking yet, because it is a skill that you can learn at any age of your life. And the earlier you start, I think the better it is, because then you know actually what you are consuming and then you get control over what you are consuming. If you are now not a big fan of cooking, of like home cooking, then one simple thing I recommend you to do is to go find just one simple recipe from maybe Instagram or YouTube and start cooking it over time. Like, start with something very simple, not like multiple steps of prepping or a lot of ingredients. Even something better, if you know that it is your favorite already, that's perfect. And you try to cook it over time, get used to it, get to the flow of what you should season, and then you're gonna advance gradually. And remember not to like put too much pressure on yourself when you start cooking at home. So all in all, that I hope that in our 20s, early 20s, even 30s, I know whatever age you are, that we should start learn how to cook, and over time fall in love with it and even become a chef. Like, that's my goals. Okay, the next thing is that I am so proud of myself for starting doing in my early 20s is putting exercise as my top priority in my life. I have been working out for many years, and now it's not just about like movement. Working out has become kind of like a part of my identity nowadays. In my early 20s, I'm not just like trying to move, but I actually really emphasize this in my life. I put it as my one of the highest priority ever. It means that when I schedule my week or my month, I always block time for workout, and only thing that's super important that can move that time. And I remember I even put my workout time in my official work calendar, so that my coworker can see like, oh, from 5 to 6 p.m. on this day I'm working out, and if the meeting is not important, move it to that time. So like, I set very clear boundary an expectation for myself to maintain workout because I understood clearly the importance of workout, what it's brought to me, like longevity, flexibility, and a strong body, even the confidence in myself. There's a lot of positive results or benefits from working out, and I want to make sure that despite all the busyness of life, of pursuing my career, I still maintain the act of taking care of myself through workout. I feel you that in early 20 we are so torn between like focusing career, building a career with maintaining friendship, with taking care of ourselves, blah blah. But let me tell you, when you work out, when you feel strong about yourself, when your energy is stable, you are energized, you can actually show up better for your friend, for your job, for your family. So taking care of yourself, doing exercise is not something selfish, it's not something just for yourself. You are actually also doing it for others. So I'm really glad that I prioritize that, and I definitely believe that you should do so. Even if you are not in early 20, 30 or 40, at any age in your life, exercise is the key to a happy life. So here in this picture, it was me trying to film one of my first YouTube video with my plant light and also my iPhone 14 Pro. I started creating content with literally what I have on my hand then. And then after a few years, now I have hundreds of thousands of followers. I have some brand deals, but that is not actually what I really think is the most valuable thing out of creating content and build a personal brand. I feel like the skill I learned during this is what's the most impactful in my life right now. When I learned to create content to build my personal brand, I built up a special skills of how to tell a good story, how to convey my message in the right time, with the right tool, with the right media. And I learned how to capture the beauty of objects of our daily life. And I also learned the basic of visual thinking. These are the skills that it's gonna take you so long, and it's not something that you have to go to school to learn. It's this thing that you can actually learn from trying to make videos, photos, post for yourself, write a script, and over time, I actually apply those skills also in my daily life with my friends, with my family, even at work. Ability to tell good story, to become a bit more outstanding from having my own values, from building personal branding. All these things also help me to be more outstanding when I find a job. I am not here to tell you like, hey, you should also do the same, that you also have to like create content. But the idea is that I value the act of creating something, especially to train your creativity. That's the key thing here. Instead of just be the consumer of media, of information, of everything, I think it's really important to step up, become a creator in any form of media, any form of visuals that you want to have. Like you can start writing, journaling, writing blog, just like start creating instead of consuming. And that's when you will grow much faster and also explore a lot of special skill and ability within yourself. Now we come to number 5. It is like something relating a little bit to finance. And if you can see here, do you know what it is? Yes, it's my personal finance tracker. Yes, it's a picture of 2026. But I actually started tracking my expense since I was like maybe 22 or 23 years old. It all started when I had my first job. I had my paychecks. I actually earned money. And then, after a few months when I actually earned extra money from working, I have nothing left. Like my bank account back to zero almost every month. And then I was like, where the heck did my money go? Like I need to track it. And then that's why I started tracking, and then I could see clearly like where most of my money went. And of course, usually it's for some very stupid expense when I was young. And over time, I see the value of tracking your expense because it's give me the ability to like zoom out to understand the picture of my finance situation. And then it also like a nudge or like a reminder for me to be a bit more mindful with what I'm about to put my money in. And from just simply tracking where I put money, I jump to the step of budgeting. So tracking is just like record what you spend, But budgets is like really think ahead, like look at your next month, for example, or next year, how much money you're gonna put into grocery or how much money you allow yourself to actually go shopping. So that is the act of budgets, because I also like read a little bit of personal finance. I try to figure out what should be the proportion or like percentage of my actual income should go to grocery or what should come to spending. So it was like very baby step for me to do when I was a few years younger. I'm so glad that I did it. Like I just realized that many people, they just spend without really be aware of where your money went. And I think that is a little bit ignored in this economy, to just let your money go without really direct yourself, like direct your personal finance to any direction. Because nowadays, it's hard, like challenging. So you need to always be prepared to build your own personal wealth and also to have a little bit of safety fund and so on. And the next thing I'm so glad that I started doing was investing and saving. So yeah, this is a pictures of one of my investment account. I started also just a few years ago. I remember that for me, investing had been a very strange, I would say distant thing to do, because I have never gotten any idea of how my parents manage money or where did they invest or save. Like I got no clue. And also the acts of talk about money, like the money conversation was always so awkward, because I feel like whenever you ask about money, it's more like you're about to be compared or you're about to compare yourself with the other person's income. This is something actually, I believe we should change. But let me tell you, in my early 20s, I'm really lucky to have one of the friends. She's like much older than me, and for me, she's very smart, very knowledgeable person. I talk to her sometimes at work, and at some point she shared about like how she just like auto save and invest money here in Finland. And I was like, okay, it didn't sound that complicated. Basically, you just create an investment account, and then every month you're gonna auto transfer your money to the bank account. And yes, you might have to choose some fund, some ETFs first, but then over time it's gonna become automatic. And it's like no-brainer. So yeah, after a lot of time of like thinking about it, I finally did it a few years ago. And after the first 1-2 months, I have to actually choose what ETF or which fund you're gonna choose that you're gonna invest. After that, the whole process was pretty automatic. Right now, my money, when I receive a salary, just ultimately go to my investment and then the saving account, and they just gonna invest it. The money gonna do the magic over time. And as I said, the magic of compound interest is pretty amazing. Like it is always a small consistent thing that you do even quietly when no one watching that actually make the huge change and impact in the future. So for this part, I'm really happy with myself for started tracking, budgeting, and then even investing and saving in my futures. And that is something that I believe that every one of us should do it as early as possible, because I always say, remember the power of compound interest. Moving on to the next one is reading over scrolling. I remember I actually built the reading habit after the first Project 50 challenge that I also post online. That challenge had formed me a lot of habits, and one of them that I'm so glad that I still keep until now is the reading habit over scrolling. I bet that we all know what is the benefits of reading, right? When I read more, I feel calmer. It's also a way for me to practice deeper thinking. You actually read, analyze without chasing the next information. I control my own pace of information when I read. And also with reading, I actually also train my imaginations and creativity. And I think that's what I like the most about reading over watching like movie or especially scrolling, because they are like literally overstimulating for me. And your brain needs some break from that. Like I don't think our brains in this modern society is like desired to catch up with the amount of information we are receiving nowadays. Anyway, for me, I first read mostly about self-help book, like Atomic Habit, those kind of book. But then over time, I also shift a little bit toward like personal finance, like the psychology of money. And then nowadays, I also read a lot of novels because I feel it's a bit dry and a bit too stiff in my life if I just keep reading about advices, about list number 1, number 2, number 3, and then, it's not the thing I want to read before sleep. So I also read a bit more novels nowadays, and also a bit of biography. It's just a perfect match between like actual personal stories and a lot of good advices and information. You might not ask, but if you ask for an advice to actually start reading, then I would suggest you to put a time of your day for reading. Could be during your commute time, or I personally prefer before bedtime because that's when I don't think too much. And also a very important thing is that maybe try to read without your phone or your laptop within your reach, so that you are completely just with the book in a space that you don't have to worry about anything, that you don't think about the notifications or emails. Like, make sure that you set about maybe 5 or 10 minutes of reading without any distractions, and you'll just be there for reading. And of course, read something that you like, probably a novel or even romantic story, or anything that you really want to learn more, that you feel eager to learn. A good book is very important to keep you going to the flow of reading, and I might have some personal recommendation for book for you to start. So if you don't want, then just let me know. I will share some recommendation later. The next thing I did related a little bit to learning or reading is to try to observe as much as possible in life. And this, I believe, is one of the best ways to learn in your early 20s. I remember vividly in my laptop screen, it was a picture of my mottos to learn fast, observe fast, and observe everything in life. You can see that how excited I was when I was young to try to learn, pay attention to everything, to observe as much as possible. Because my parents always told me that's the best way to learn is to learn from other people's and to pay close attention to people that you look up to. And I think that is very true when you're early 20s. You are young, you're a little bit inexperienced, you don't have much knowledge about how life operates, but what you have is full of energy, a very open mind, and that's why you should put yourself out there. Always stay open and pay attention to how people do things, how society operates, and from then you learn the knowledge, the unwritten rules that obviously is not always in the book. When I was looking for a job, for example, I went to LinkedIn, I searched for the people that actually have the dream job that I had, for example, and I tried to analyze what did they do before, and then I tried to do something a bit similar. And even when, for example, when I had a job, I paid a close attention to my managers or C-suite level people on how they hosted a meeting, how they managed stress, how they managed conflict, discussions, how they followed up a meeting, or even how they, showed up at the office. There are a lot of things that you can learn when you actually paid attention and also absorb from the environments around you. And for me, that is obviously invaluable lessons that you cannot just open the book and try to find it somewhere, because they are real life experience. So stay open in life in your early 20s or at any time in your life, because there's a lot of valuable lessons that you can learn from. It's equally important to be a book smart and also a social smart. So I just try to always pay attention to things surrounding and absorb as much as possible. And the ninth thing I did in my early 20s is to build a strong sense of self. And this is a picture of my favorite journal. Like many of you, in my early 20s, I was drowning by the pressure, by the expectations from my parents, and also from the social noise that, you are bombarded with every day. And not surprisingly, I was so confused of my futures, of even who I was then, and I got no clue what I would want to do next after graduation, for example. So after asking a lot of people, and I still feel confused and even more confused about what I should do, maybe now it's time to listen to the inner voice. Instead of chasing other people's advice, I go back to the inner voice. I started journal. I started to look for book that teach me how to understand myself. I started to build the core value in life life to understand exactly who I am right now, who I want to be, and how I want to live in life. In the end, I have a chart of values in life that I want to follow. I know that I want to be a positive, a confident person. I want to be surrounded by uplifting people, and I also want to empower other people too. I want to support others people to grow. I want to live a happy and fulfilled life, that I can go to sleep well every night, that I don't have to worry about anything that I have done. That is the kind of life that I want to live. And when I have that values in life, it really guided me from a lot of decisions, and more importantly, it prevented me from losing myself in friendship, relationship, or also romantic relationship. I knew when to say yes, when to say no. I have my own boundary. The core values in life protects me from using my kindness in the wrong place. Like, I don't let people exploit it, and also I know when to forgive people and when you actually need to walk away. Eventually, when I built a strong sense of self, I know the life I want to build, the values I want to carry, it beautifully automatically attract people with aligned mindsets and core value to my life, because you know what you want. So that's why people with the same energy will come to you. When you really know yourself, I feel it's kind of like you radiate that kind of energy that attract people back to you. And the 10 things, it was I pushed myself to do things alone more often. You know, I'm living abroad by myself. So yes, there are things that I have no choice but to do by myself. But when it came to doing things alone in public, like going to a restaurant, to movies, or to a concert by myself, it was a nightmare to me. Like in my early 20s, if I have to go to a restaurant by myself, I would feel really embarrassed for that, because I thought people in the restaurant might think that I'm such a lonely person. Like no one went to the restaurant with me, and that's why I'm alone. But then, you know, when you actually have time to think, no one really cares about you, first of all. And secondly, there's a huge difference between doing things alone versus being lonely. They are not the same thing at all. I know that in my life, I always have good friends with me, my family with me, but being brave enough to have the courage to do things alone is such an important thing to have. That doesn't mean that I don't have anyone to help, but I want to be able to build my life independently, not to always waiting for others to do with me. So I want to gain control over your life, and that's why I want to do things alone more often. So that's why in my early 20s, I tried to find opportunity to do things by myself. Like if I find an event, maybe none of my friends was interested in that, I would try to do myself. The first time was hard. The second time was a bit easier. And by the third time, I was like, it's totally okay. I'm even excited to be there by myself, because then I feel actually much more open to approach strangers and start the conversation. So you know that in life, we would never be able to rely on anyone forever except ourselves. So I think it's really important to kind of learn to be able to do things by yourself. Of course, I don't mean that everything you have to do by yourself. Always ask for help when you can. But on the other hand, you should also try to be a bit more independent, to be able to do things by yourself without waiting for others. That's also very important. And I'm really glad that I trained that in my early 20s. So now it's so easy for me if I have to do things alone. And what is the impact it's brought to me? Now I'm much more confident in doing things, even when I have others to support me, or even when I have to do it by myself, because I can do a lot of things by myself. It's just a very quiet but very stable confidence and self-trust that I'm having in myself right now. And the last thing that I have been waiting to share with you, I'm so glad that I did in my early 20s, is that I successfully trained myself to have the do it mindset. Okay, so this is a picture of me in my first ever presentations in a very big university hall. It was an invitation from my old teachers, I think, to present about social media after graduation. And let me tell you one thing, is that I wasn't ready at all. When I received the invitation, I'm just 1 year into social media, I wasn't ready to share anything. I don't feel like I'm qualified to share. But then after thinking a lot, I decided to say yes, because in my early 20s, I wanted myself to do things more instead of just sitting in one place and overthinking. I feel you when you say that it's so scared to do things and you feel like you need more time to prepare, you need more time to actually learn more information until you can actually do things. Like, let's just take an example. Like, I believe that you might have watched a lot of like self-help video already, or you might have watched a lot of video with a lot of documentation about any certain topic, but you might haven't done any of them. It's like you have a goal and then you prepare yourself with a lot of preparation, you know exactly what you should do, what you need to do next, but then you feel like, I just don't want to do that. But then you still feel a little bit good about yourself because you actually know you've become a bit more knowledgeable about the goal that you're pursuing. But let me be so honest with you that the information stored in your head or somewhere in your notes is meaningless until you actually do that. And until you actually take the action, nothing will change for your goal progress. Though preparation step is always preparations, they wouldn't mean anything unless you do it. I don't want to sound very negative like this, but one thing I want to point out to you that remember, we are young. We are in 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, or even 30s. We are still young and our ability to recover is much higher compared to later. So you are having the freedom, the privilege to actually take risks, even failed and learned, recover, and grow later. So allow yourself to take risks. Allow yourself to just do things instead of sitting there waiting for yourself to be ready, which might never happen. I bet none of us would want later on when we look back at our 20s or 30 and we was like, I'm so regretful. Like, I hope I have done it. Like, no, we are not setting ourselves up for that future. We are now feeling confident, push ourselves to do the thing, and later on we will learn, we will feel proud of yourself to be brave and take action. So I just want to remind yourself to be brave, to just do it. Like for me in my 20s, I always tell myself is that just do it first and make it better later. Remember, better later. But right now, just do it. Ta-da! The first chapter of my early 20s scrapbook is just finished. I share with you 11 small things that made a huge impact in my early 20s with the hope that you will get inspired and started any of this as soon as possible. As I mentioned, when I started these tiny habits and decisions, it didn't feel really huge or like such a big things that are gonna transform my life. They are very small. It just took a little bit time of my life, and over time, because it's quite easy and small, I could do it consistently, and it compounds over time. The impact, the effect, the advantage that I got from doing this thing over the years are now showing true results. I am a happy, healthy 25 years old girl, and I got clear visions of what I want to be in life, and I am leading towards a true wealthy life, rich in happiness, rich in memories, and rich in kindness. If you remember the 11 things that I mentioned that you need to take on the do-it mindset, I hope you will get it immediately by deciding one of the 11 things that you would try on as soon as possible. I would say about next week or the beginning of next month. I hope that you're not just watching the video and put it like in the back of your memory. You actually apply some of this. And my advice is that you don't have to start everything all at once. Always start with one thing small. It's easy for you to keep consistent and see result. And then you add one more thing. If you are right now feel a little behind or like confused or lost in your life, just remember that you are not racing against anyone. Okay? Don't choose the game that you will lose, because if you keep comparing yourself with others, you never win. Just choose the game that you know that you will win one day, and to try to be better than yourself yesterday, last month, and last year. Now at the end of this video, I am so glad that you still stay until now. And if there's any feedback, any questions, any comments, just let me know in the comment sections, because I love hearing that. No matter how old you are right now, I think we are all on the right track. We are all at the right place at where we need to be. We just need to put trust and the focus on ourselves instead of others. I think all we need right now is put trust, focus on ourselves, start doing things more, and keep consistent. That's how I think we will be rich, will be successful eventually in life. Thank you so much as always. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, even share it to anyone that you feel that might benefit from my little advices. I hope to see you in my next video, and let me know if you have any topic or suggestion for the next chapter of my The Early 20s Scrapbook. Bye bye!